When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll tour. When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll.
Hey, Tyler.
Hey, Piet.
What's going on? Welcome to the New Score Podcast. My name is Pat. This is my co-host, TYG, Tyler Pratt. Tyler, how we be doing? What do we be drinking?
I didn't know you saw that. We be doing good. On the menu today, we have a little bit of Hennessy White for you folks at home. 25th anniversary bottle, actually. Yes, thank you. Brown water. I should have just started with that. But I tell you what, it was a fucking weekend. It was a weekend. Glad to be back, though. We missed you guys last week. I'm sure you missed us. So, ready to dive in.
Yeah, ready to dive in. It is the best time of year to be a sports fan. It's also our birthday season, so there's that too. But we got NFL cooking, middle of the season. Things are heating up. College football. We got Major League Baseball playoffs. We're down to 4 teams right now. World Series is right around the corner. And we got hockey back. NBA very soon to be back. Everything is in the works right now. It is a great time to be a sports fan. And I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about week 6. Theme of this episode is familiar faces on top of the AFC. You know, when we grew up, our generation growing up, it was the Patriots, obviously, that reigned the AFC East for years. It was the Steelers that reigned over the AFC North. It was the Indianapolis Colts that were kings of the South. And then the then San Diego Chargers and our boy Phillip Rivers dominated the West. And you look around now at the AFC, and all 4 of those teams right now are leading their divisions, which I don't think a lot of people would have predicted going into the season. So that is definitely something that's interesting to me. Those teams back on top. I mean, the AFC North, between Burrow injury and everything that the Ravens have been through, it looks like they might run away with it at this point. And obviously we're going to get into them. And then the Indianapolis Colts, who would have seen this team as being 5-1 right now in the South? It's just unbelievable. And Patriots and Chargers look like they've certainly taken a leap from a season ago. We knew Harbaugh was going to come in and change the culture, turn it around right away, and that's what he did last year.
Yeah.
And even with the injuries that they've dealt with a boatload of injuries between their offensive line that they're still missing their 2 tackles. Hampton goes down. Khalil Mack hasn't been healthy. Other guys on the defense haven't been healthy, and they've just continued to find a way to get it done, to sit at 4-2 in their division right now. So exciting stuff, a lot to talk about. A couple segments that we're going to start out with. We got Dime of the Week, and we have a You're Fired to talk about. And this will be the second one of the season. First one we did weeks ago was for Brian Callahan. That was well-deserved, and that wasn't his first time being on the segment on this podcast. And finally, Tyler, the Titans canned him, and he's gone. So can't make fun of him anymore, at least not as the Titans head coach.
Congratulations, Tennessee.
Yes, congratulations, Tennessee. But we got another coach that is on the hot seat right now that we're going to talk about. But first, Let's do dime of the week.
Let's get it.
I want to use this time to take a victory lap because we extensively covered the 2024 draft class where 6 quarterbacks were taken in the first round of that NFL draft. During the combine, through the whole process leading up to the draft, your boy was very fond of one particular quarterback, and he remained true to that quarterback through time. And now we are seeing the development, the fruition of what is and what is to come, and that is New England Patriots quarterback Drake May. I'm just going to take this time to, take my victory lap here. This kid was put into a situation last year where he wasn't set up to succeed. Between a coaching staff of Gerard Mayo, Alex Van Pelt, arguably the worst offensive line in the league. Not a lot of talent anywhere. No structure anywhere. He was set up to fail. Now, you bring in Mike Vrabel. You bring in Josh McDaniels. You revamp the offensive line. You spend a shit ton of money in free agency to put talent on this roster. And what do you see? We see Drake May absolutely balling right now. Last week was the come out party in Buffalo, taking down the Bills on the road in prime time. There was a throw in that game that he had rolling to his right to Stephon Diggs on the sideline that could have been a dime of the week throw. And then you go to this week against the New Orleans Saints, and he was just dicing them up all game long. If it wasn't for a couple unfortunate calls in this game that wiped out other plays, dude would have had over 400 yards passing. He finished the day with, I believe, a QB rating of 140, and they wiped 2 huge plays off the board. One he had to Stephon Diggs on the sideline where he stepped up in the pocket. His jersey was getting torn and dropped an absolute seed into Stephon Diggs on the sideline. Another one, he's evading pressure, and then he found Pop Douglas up the field early in that game. Douglas went on to score a touchdown. They called that one back. So let's talk about the one that's going to be dime of the week, and that is he feels pressure. This was a common theme of him feeling pressure, evading, using his athleticism that I've spoken about multiple times on this podcast. Steps up in the pocket, Tyler. He's off of his right foot, floats it in there to the end zone. Perfect throw to Kayshawn. Booty, rocking everywhere in the end zone for the touchdown. And Booty had a monster day. He is emerging as a very solid number 2. You got Pop Douglas as a number 3. You got Matt Collins as a number 4. Stephon Diggs is the number 1. You want to take him away? That's fine. Their quarterback is seeing the field excellent. He had another play in this game where he steps up in the pocket and it looks like he's going down, and he just flicks it off to the side to Travion Henderson in the flat to gain some yards and escape a sack. This dude was an absolute highlight reel on Sunday. So, yes, the throw to Booty in the end zone for the touchdown was great, but he was just dropping dimes all over the field. And like I said, the refs really screwed New England on a couple plays that this game could have been broken wide open, and it wouldn't even been as close as it ended up being. And then also just the throw that he made last week to Diggs on the sideline. It is exciting. You're seeing the athleticism. You're seeing the arm talent. You're seeing the maturity. All of these things that are needed for a quarterback to succeed in the NFL. Vrabel and McDaniels at the helm now. I mean, imagine being a Dolphins fan in that division where you were right there for a couple years. Right there. You pay a guy top 5 quarterback money who clearly didn't deserve it. And now you see this young cat in your division on a team that owned you for 20 years. And now he seems to have surpassed you. And your team is just down in the dumps with that quarterback that you're paying all that money to. So that's another aspect of that. And then Buffalo, obviously, they're paying Josh Allen all of this money that they can't even fill a roster with guys that could tackle on defense. And their weapons are not great on offense either. So this is a prime time spot for the New England Patriots where you got that young quarterback. You have the allocated funds to go and spend your money on whatever you need in free agency, trades, whatever. It's an exciting time to be a New England Patriot fan right now. And like I said, I got to take my victory lap because I've been Team Drake May. That was my guy going into last year's draft, and we're really seeing him pop right now.
Could be a Jets fan where you're just never in it. And the most relevant thing you have is Mr. Butt Fumble stabbing grandpas.
Yeah. Yeah, Mark Sanchez is another conversation we need to have too.
Yeah. Do we?
All right. Congratulations, Drake May. Keep doing you. Week 6, dime of the week. Now, to a more depressing state of affairs about those Miami Dolphins that I was just talking about. It's time to turn up the heat on this locker room right now. This isn't just 1 year. This is multiple years. This team is soft, and it starts from the top. It starts with the guy wearing capris on the sideline. There's only one coach in the NFL that is alpha enough to wear capris on the sideline as a leader of men, as a leader of a football team, and that's Sean McVay. McDaniel, it's time. This team has no accountability. They have no discipline. I will say he has spent scheming his ass off for a quarterback that isn't that good, trying to make him look better than he is, and that's apparent. And he's every week in, week out. We're going to get to Tua. We're going to get to him, don't worry. He's not exempt from this. But the fact that this is now multiple years where you have players, professional NFL football players, who are showing up late to meetings or missing meetings throughout the week, that just shows a blatant mismanagement of an organization with no structure, no accountability, no responsibility, no leadership at all in that locker room. And it starts from the top. It starts with the head coach, and it also starts with the quarterback. Like I said, Tua is not exempt for this. But McDaniel, you're setting the mood for that room. You're setting the tempo for how things are carried out. And when you have no accountability, no responsibility, I'm an NFL organization, what do you see? You see an undisciplined football team who is soft, that can't compete out there for 60 minutes on a week in, week out basis. It's time to move on from the coach. It's time to move on from the quarterback. It is time to move on from the GM, I believe, as well. Greer, you're in this as well. All three. This is a rare segment where I'm going, all three of you, it's time to blow it up because you have now been surpassed by the New England Patriots, who were in the dumps for years. That team looks better than you. Even the Jets, who look like a dumpster fire in itself right now, at least they aren't up against the cap to where they can't turn it around in the offseason because they overpaid for a quarterback who didn't deserve that money. Miami is a top-heavy team without top-heavy talent. Where would this team be without Devon Achane right now and Jalen Waddle, without those two guys? How bad would this offense look on Sundays without those two guys? It is awful. Like I said, I'm going to get into Tua and the schematics because I went and I rewatched that game earlier today against the Chargers. But Mike McDaniel, you're going to be a great play caller for a team very soon. You're going to be an amazing offensive coordinator as you once were, but you are not a leader of men out there that can hold these guys accountable. And it's gotten old. It's just a very stale feeling in Miami right now. So, Mike McDaniel, you're fired.
Well said. Well said. I think stale. I think stale is like the perfect word for Miami right now. They're just very, very bland. Not Duran, though. Not Duran.
All right, Tyler. That was our 2 segments for the week. Let's get into these games from Sunday. Actually, you know what? Let's touch on the Thursday night game. I know it was a while ago.
Please.
Speaking of an offense that doesn't look like they have it right now, the Philadelphia Eagles just look like a mess. Jalen Hurts, I keep seeing that throw in my head where he's missing Devontae Smith wide open that could have flipped that game around. And that wasn't the only one. He tries forcing a ball in later on in that game to Dotson on the sideline. It was just like the weakest out throw that I've ever seen in my life. Got picked off, almost got taken back for a touchdown. But multiple turnovers they had in this game where they were just setting the Giants up for easy points. So what is the fix right now for the Philadelphia Eagles? Is this just the typical, they're just a little sloppy throughout the regular season, but they're going to eventually turn it around? Because I think there's something much deeper going on with the offense right now, and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith just not being happy. Barkley not putting up nearly the numbers. I mean, we didn't expect him to match what he did last year. That's a historic season that he had. But the space that he's having this season and success on the ground is just not even like comparable to what it was last year. This team just looks like an absolute mess right now. They got breakdowns in their secondary. What is the fix in Philadelphia right now? Is it just a simple fire the OC and try something else and get a little juice going there, or what?
Yeah, they can trade for Kellen Moore and bring him back. They can try that. But it's Saquon. That's the fix. You fix that and it fixes your entire offense. Guaranteed. Guaranteed, dude. 12 carries, 58 yards. Why is he not getting more? Almost 5 yards a carry. And then we already touched on the last couple weeks where he wasn't getting enough carries. 12 is still not enough for Saquon Barkley, arguably the best back in our league. He's got to be touching it 20 times a game, unless you're off to an atrocious start where you're down 24 zip and the run game's non-existent in the first half. Yeah, come out firing in the second half. I get it. Or even at some point in the second quarter, right? Trying to get something going. But like, if you're averaging 5 yards a carry, and what was his long? His long was 18. So even if you take that away, 11 carries for 40, it's still almost 4 yards a carry, which is a good clip, right? They got to get him going. And then everything else will fall in line. That's what Hurts has, I feel like, lived on the last couple years has been RPO, play action. What better RPO than to have Barkley? Play action is something that he's very good at because he's mobile and he can move. And if the first read's not there, he can make something happen with his feet. He's already out of the pocket. They gotta fix the run game. They just have to. And then they have to stick to it. They just have to be consistent, and they're not. And it's killing me. I don't back the Eagles very often because deep down I really hope that they lose so badly that it's hard for my brain to flip the switch and be like, nope, they got it this week. But I did that. I did that on Thursday. You know what happened? They fucked me. Why? Because right now they stink. That offense stinks. They're one of the luckiest teams in the league. They should have a losing record right now. They are beyond grateful to be 4-2. They should have a losing record. They need to get it together. Actually, I hope they don't. If I'm being honest, I hope they continue to have this downfall, but they got to get the run game going. It's really where it starts.
One more thing I'm going to touch on with them, then I'm going to talk about the Giants a little bit, is even the body language of this team on defense late in that game. It looked like the team on the field quit. It looked like they were giving up defensively, and they were just like fed up. They were like, all right, we're done. We don't want to tackle Cam Scatterbull anymore. Like, we're just over it. And then there's guys on the sideline like laughing and hooting and hollering, and it's like they're up 20 points by, the body language of everybody on the sideline. It's like, I mean, I know this game's in October, and you guys have been in some really big games these last couple of years, but I mean, act like you care just a little bit. It's like Jalen Carter. I mean, get your ass on the field before you want to, sit on the sideline joking around and shit. Like, that's another guy. I mean, that I just see the cameras going to him on the sideline. He's having like the time of his life, and it's like, bro, you're costing your team right now. And obviously, I touched on AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, and them not being happy. And you could just tell those are two guys that looks like those are the only two guys it looks like it actually does matter to. And they're on the sideline and they're pissed. They're pissed that this team is not executing the way that they know they should be right now. But I want to touch on the Giants a little bit. This run game with Scatterbo, the exciting whites combination of Jackson Dart and Cam right now is fun to watch. I mean, Scatterbo, you watch that guy. We talk about how we love Pacheco running the football. I think Scatterbo might be, he might have topped that, just watching him carry the football, and he's seeking contact. This dude got quoted by saying, I don't fear CTE, CTE fears me. So that's just the epitome of what kind of football player this guy is. He's going to put himself in harm's way. He averaged 5.2 yards on the ground with 3 touchdowns, just missed a 100-yard game. And then Jackson Dart, man, he had nearly 60 yards rushing himself, finished the day with a QBR of 90, passer rating of 104.6. Just he's taking care of the ball, and he's moving the chains, something that Russell Wilson was not doing. And Russell Wilson was putting the ball in harm's way. And Jackson Dart has just brought a new life to this Giants team. And it's like they're sitting at 2-4 right now, but the way things are going right now, can this team eventually make a run, late in the season if they can really get hot? And between how the defense looked and how that run game looks and just Dart being able to take care of the ball, I know they don't have great weapons. I feel like this is a team, you get a couple more wins under your belt. If you're the Giants, you have to be shopping for a top receiver at the deadline, because it's nice that Wendell Robinson finished the day with 84 yards, 6 catches, and a touchdown, but he can't be your number one if you want to be a team that's going to compete down the stretch. So I really see this team is, if they're going to be for real, then it's going to be interesting to see, what they end up doing at the deadline. Because I think if you put a true number one receiver in there with Neighbors being out, it could be exciting.
Yeah,
but let's move on to Sunday.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, bring back OBJ.
Yeah, and he came out talking about that as a possibility too. So
why not?
I mean, I don't see him as a number one, but he can definitely help out. He can help out in his own right.
Right.
Let's move on to Sunday, in a game that was not exciting. And fortunately, I was at church for the entire duration of this game, so I missed all of it. And looking at the stats, had no desire to go back and rewatch it. And that is the London game of the Denver Broncos and the New York Jets, 13-11. Denver ends up winning. One thing that I'm going to say that kind of just summarizes what this game was is Justin Fields finished with 9 completions and he was sacked 9 times. But I know you did watch this game. What are your takeaways from this one?
Very underwhelming from Denver's offense. Defense played great, of course, but just an underwhelming performance. I think they took some shots, but everything was short. Everything from Denver was short. The run game wasn't good. I don't even know if they averaged 3 yards a carry. So it was just very underwhelming. And then the Jets, I mean, Denver's Denver. They had a bad day, should have lost the game. They came out with a win. They play any other team, they probably lose. The Jets are so fucking bad, it hurts. It hurts to watch. I mean, and it's not even like, it's to the point where when I'm seeing the decisions that they're making from a coaching standpoint, I'm really like, this can't be the standard. Like, this cannot be what an NFL head coach does. We go back to the end of the first half. I don't even remember what the score was, but they have 30 something seconds a minute on the clock to go get a field goal. They needed 15 yards to get into field goal range. They ran a fake punt on 4th and 1 to get the first down, and they got it, which, by the way, I think when you go back and you look, it was like most of their starting offensive line and Breece Hall were in the formation. Breece Hall took the snap. It was an indirect snap. Like that's a dead giveaway. That's not even a fake punt. You're just throwing the punter out there, lining everybody up, and giving it to Breece Hall. They get it, and then what do? Nothing. I don't even think they attempted to throw it. They ended up running the clock out. It was just, I was befuddled. I'm like, you're going to go for it on 4th and 1 with a fake punt and then not even try to kick a field goal? They were down 2. They were down 2 points, or they ended up losing by 2. That could have been the difference, right? Same thing, end of the game, 4th quarter. What do? They come out running the ball with 2 minutes left. They were scared to throw. They were scared to throw the football. It just, I mean, Garrett Wilson, he was pissed at the end of the first half, visually. And I think everyone can agree, everyone can see why. And it's like, how much longer is he going to put up with that shit before he starts being like, yo, something's got to change. You got to get me out of here. I don't think he's that kind of player.
Him
but
and Breece.
Yeah. And there was already the Breece trade rumors before the year even started. So, I mean, I don't know when the trade deadline is, but I don't know. The Jets, just like some of the shit that they're doing, I'm just like, this can't actually be like, you can't convince me that this is what you wanted to do. And I think Aaron Glenn said, like, at the end of the first half, yeah, if it was up, if I could do it again, I would just throw a Hail Mary up with 5 seconds. How about you get 10 to 15 yards and try to kick a field goal in a sloppy ass fucking game that ended up 13-11? How important would those 3 points have been? Pretty important. You could have got your first win in the season. It's just terrible. Everything that they're doing. Are we sold on Justin Fields that he's not in every down or in every game quarterback? Are we over it yet? Are we still thinking like maybe this guy's got a chance to be a good quarterback? I mean, I know it's a bad situation, but at some point, like, you also have to, I don't know. It didn't work in Chicago. It didn't work in Pittsburgh. And aside from week 1, it has not looked good. It's looked probably worse than it's ever looked for Justin Fields, but I don't know. You know me. I've always been out on them. So that's just my take. Jets fucking suck. I don't even want to watch them the rest of the year if they're going to put up, this kind of performance. Like, the product is just bad. Plain and simple. Just a bad product.
Yeah, Fields finished 9 for 17 for 45 yards. And actually, the net passing of the team ended up being minus 10 yards on the day. So
embarrassing.
QBR was 9. 9 completions, quarterback rating 9, 9 sacks. That's awful. Garrett Wilson, 3 catches for 13 yards. Yeah, you better be pissed. I do want to say, though, obviously there were a lot of doubts going into the season with Justin Fields as your quarterback 1. We talked about in the offseason how they hired this no-name offensive coordinator. And then Aaron Glenn, we weren't sold on either. And he's a defensive rah-rah guy, just like Robert Salah was. So you're kind of just replacing, one thing with the same thing, essentially. And Salah had the team actually playing for a good majority. I don't think he would have started off this bad with this team. The Jets, man, the Jets are just cursed. Like, look at Aaron Rodgers right now. Look at what Aaron Rodgers is doing in Pittsburgh. Look at Sam Darnold. Look at what Sam Darnold is doing in Seattle. Look what Sam Darnold did in Minnesota. Like, this team, this organization is just where everything goes to shit. And we see it time and time again where coaches leave. Look at Todd Bowles now, what he's been doing for years in Tampa. Couldn't get it figured out with the Jets. And I just feel like this is, between the Jets and the Browns, it's just 2 organizations that they have shitty ownership, and they continue to make wrong decision after wrong decision after wrong decision, and it just, everybody's set up to fail, and it's just a very toxic environment. As far as Denver's side of things, I mean, yeah, you go on to 4-2, but like you mentioned, they really should have lost this game. It wasn't the fact that they were playing the Jets. They could have played, 30 other teams in the NFL and probably lost the way that they played. So I'm not going to spend the time to talk about Denver other than they're 4-2. I still like their chances because of what they have in their defense, but there's some real concerns with Bo Nix right now because he's not I mean, I had an MVP future on this guy going into the season because I thought he was between how he finished last season, went into the playoffs, and he played that playoff game against Buffalo. I thought like this dude was really on the rise to become something under Sean Payton in this offense. And I like their young weapons. Their running game has been pretty solid up to this point in the season. It wasn't solid on Sunday, but like Bo Nix, it's time to get him going right now because you're not going to stand a chance the way that the Chiefs are getting going right now. We're going to talk about them later. They're really getting cooking, and now they're only getting Rasheed Rice back, the Chargers as well. Like, you have to play better if you're Bo Nix and you want to compete in that division. But let's move on to the 1 o'clock window. Let's talk about my Rams going to Baltimore, playing in a sluggish game against the Ravens. Cooper Rush. This game was tight early. It would just Stafford missed a lot of throws, and this has been a common theme where I feel like the Rams have really could have put a hammer down on teams. Like, we could very easily be undefeated right now. You take away a couple plays, a couple penalties, missed field goals. The field goal unit has been a nightmare. Like, the Rams they're literally like 4 or 5 plays away right now from being undefeated, from having the best record in the NFL. But just miscues and special teams and penalties that have taken big plays away or turnovers away have cost them. And luckily, Cooper Rush was playing quarterback for the Ravens, so it didn't matter. And, you know, the defense still looks extraordinary, but it's like I'm not going to put my head up high because we shut down Cooper Rush and the Ravens. Like, yeah, it was a great 4th down stop where they stuffed him at the goal line, you know, play after play after play to finish off that first half, and that really helped their momentum going into halftime. And I was like, all right, it's going to be okay. Like, we're not going to get upset today. And the Puka injury is obviously worrisome. They don't know if he's going to be able to go with that foot injury this coming week in London. But overall, I mean, it's always good to get a win on the road for the Rams. Like I said, I don't want to touch on it too much other than I am brutally pissed off that they took a home game away from the Jags this week, putting this game in London, because my ass would be there. My ass would be in Duval this weekend watching the Rams play. But of course, they got to give it to the London fans with fucking teams with all 32 jerseys, not knowing what sport they're watching in the stadium. So that's my take on that. As far as the Ravens go, they're sitting at 1-5 right now. You're going into a bye. Lamar's banged up. Not just him, a multitude of guys on that defensive side of the ball. Do you start thinking like some of those guys like Kyle Van Noy, him specifically, do they end up shopping him to a team that's going to be a contender, or do they put all their chips in after the bye and they say, all right, we've had bad luck with injuries. Lamar's going to be coming back healthy after the bye. Some other key figures are going to be coming back after the bye. Let's try to make one last push. And it's like the team is talented enough to go on a run, but it's like when you're in a 1-5 hole, you're really setting back, and you got to go on. You got to go on a run for the ages to try and get into the postseason.
Again, 1-5. So you got to think, with as crowded as the AFC is already going to be, just because of the West, it's going to be very hard to get a wild card spot. So you got to think 9-8. Can you sneak in the AFC, get a wild card at 9-8? If so, what does Baltimore have to do to get there? They got to go 8-3 over their next 11. They have to go 8-3 at worst. So, it's not looking good for them. I don't know what the statistics are on teams to make the playoffs after a 1-5 start, but I think anybody can guess it's not good. I think they're almost stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to Lamar and then the kind of the progression of this season. When you think of it from the standpoint, if they not shut him down, but kind of shut him down, they're probably going to end up with a top 5 pick. If they put Lamar back in and Lamar plays, I guarantee they end up somewhere around 500. Maybe, 7 wins, something like that. Go 7-9. Now they have, pick 14, 15 in the draft, somewhere around there. Yeah, I don't know. Sucks because there was a lot of high expectations for them coming into this year. So it's been just a shitty year, and feel bad for Lamar and the fans because they just been so close the last couple years and just fell short. And then this is like a season from hell. The Rams, yeah, they didn't play their best game, came out with a W. Offensively at least, they just didn't play their best. But yeah, I mean, I think that's like I said a couple weeks ago with Philly, when they were just pulling games out of their ass. Good teams find ways to win, even when they don't play their best. They find ways to win. So this is a good one. Looking forward to. Is it in Dublin? Dublin?
No, it's in London.
Oh, yeah, you probably did say that. Looking forward to the London game.
Not me. Let's stick in the division, that AFC North. Division leading Pittsburgh Steelers move on to 4-1, defeating the now 1-5 Cleveland Browns. Another team that's gonna. And we talked about the Jets unloading. Perhaps Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson. I think the Browns should be there as well. Myles Garrett, he said he wanted to stay there, and well, this is the result of that, buddy. So we'll see if that stays, if he sticks long term with that. And they have plenty of guys on that team that are talented enough to help other rosters. I know Denzel Ward has been rumored around. Maybe the Eagles. I wouldn't be surprised if Howie made a move like that. But not just them. There's multiple teams in the league right now that could use a number one corner. So I expect Denzel Ward to be moved. They already shopped Newsome, and they brought Tyson Campbell back, which was kind of a weird trade for me because I think that I don't really know which team is getting better. There's a difference in the cap between those two players and the salary outlook in the future, but that one didn't really make sense to me because I just think Cleveland, you're set up to fail at this point. Dylan Gabriel, man, threw the ball 52 times in this game, and he was just dropping back, getting clobbernized by this Pittsburgh defense. Ended up taking how many sacks? He took 6 sacks, but it felt like 10. It felt like this dude every time he dropped back, and not to mention when you're dropping back 52 times, and then the defense knows that you're going to be throwing the ball, like that's free rush mode. They're coming for your head at that point, and this dude has just been thrown into the absolute fire. It wasn't a fair fight in this, and then the opposite side, Rodgers looked good. He was efficient, but just another game where he didn't have to do much, and he was just efficient out there. He did have a great throw to Hayward in the end zone. It just looked like vintage Rodgers. He was rolling out to his right. He tells him to slide to the left, and he throws it in there, throws him open, and just a great vintage Aaron Rodgers throw. It's really exciting to see the way that he's playing right now. And the DK Metcalf had a great game as well, but I do just want to say I don't know how sold I am on this Pittsburgh team right now, but we're going to find out. We are going to find out. Not this week because they're playing at Cincinnati. And Cincinnati, we're going to get to them. They just look like an absolute mess. And now Joe Flacco's playing quarterback for them. I expect them to win that game. And just another game where Rodgers probably won't have to do much, and the defense could carry him. But next week, Tyler, Sunday Night Football, the Green Bay Packers against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That is a great litmus test game for the Pittsburgh Steelers where we can really find out how legit this team is. And they should be at 5-1
Oh, yeah.
when that game takes place. And it's a Rodgers revenge game. So circle your calendars for that one on October 26th. And then the week after that, they play the Colts. Week after that, they play the Chargers. So those are 3 games in a row where we're going to get a better feel for what this Steelers team is. But I don't want to touch too much on this game just because, like the Jets, I mean, I think I could say for the Browns, like I'm really not interested in watching this team play football for the rest of the season. Unless maybe they say Shedeur Sanders get in there. Then maybe I would be interested.
Yeah. I mean, my only thing that I was going to bring up was, do you think if Miami just took Dylan Gabriel and inserted him in the starting quarterback role, would we notice a difference? Lefty. I think the difference between Gabriel and Tua is Gabriel might have a better arm, But when I watch him, I'm like, he looks. Besides being a lefty, like I think he could fit right into that Miami offense. And if they lost Tua and put Gabriel in there, he wouldn't even miss a beat.
Yeah, perfect transition here because that's next on the timeline is that Miami Dolphins LA Chargers game, and this is another one where I went back and I rewatched today just to get a better feel for it. And yeah, the Tua conversation, we've had them in the past. We've talked about how every time that they go against Buffalo, there's just a clear mismatch between Josh Allen and Tua as far as the talent. And now in the same division, you have Drake May, where it appears to just be a clear mismatch between the athleticism, arm talent, strength, structure, just, the build, everything, the body type, clear mismatch. And, they paid this guy top notch money. They were a top heavy roster between him, Tyreek, Jalen Ramsey at one time, all these guys. And if you're gonna do that, your quarterback has to lead you. Like the example of where that worked was Matthew Stafford in 2021 with the Rams, and we're still seeing it work now. Where we're paying this quarterback all this money, but the GM is drafting guys late in drafts with much better value than when they're taken, in the 5th or 6th round. The coaching staff is doing their part in developing these players, and a lot of these guys are becoming every down players and contributing. Like if you look at the Rams defense, there's not anybody making anything. Yet they're a top 5 unit in the league right now on Sunday to Sunday, like what they're doing out there. And they're not painting. Aaron Donald's not there anymore. Yet these guys are continuing to balling out, and that's straight from coaching, development, and then what the GM does. The Dolphins tried to take that model into their own hands when they don't have a quarterback who can elevate a roster. They have a quarterback who needs everything to be perfect around him. They have a quarterback that needs perfect scheme, perfect design. Like I said, I went back and watched that game. There's not a lot of play calls in that Miami playbook where it's just Tua dropping back and reading a defense and, going through 1 read, 2 reads, whatever, and making a decision. It's not a lot of that. It's a ton of motion in the backfield, play action here, fake jet sweep here, fake handoff here, 1 read, it's out of my hands. Or it's not in the flat and I have the 10-yard end. Or if it's not in the 10-yard end, I'm dumping it off in the flat. And that is the Miami Dolphins. That is the Miami offense to a T. It's not Tua dropping back, reading the defense, and making accurate throws. He hasn't been accurate. It's everything the coach doing to try and set him up for success. And it's like, that's okay if you have a young quarterback and you're trying to get his feet wet in the NFL and you have players around him that can elevate him. But when you're paying your quarterback top dollar on the market and in a situation where he has to elevate your roster and he can't do it, you're seeing the results of that right now with Tua in Miami. And you're seeing a team that's not good. They're 1-5. Tyreek Hill goes down, and it's like, where would this team be without Jalen Waddle and Achane right now? If Achane and Waddle get hurt, like, is this offense even watchable right now with what they're putting out there? And the answer is no. So, and this is a game where they played against the Chargers and a guy, Justin Herbert, where they passed Justin Herbert in the same draft to take this guy. And you could just tell, eye test, looking at these two quarterbacks, they're just not the same. It's another example of he's outmatched. He's outmatched by the opponent. He doesn't have the strength, the body build, the ability to escape. He's not that athletic at all. And I mean, it's a scary time to be the Miami Dolphins. Like I already mentioned in the You're Fired segment, in my opinion, it's time to just completely tear it down. Like GM, coach, quarterback, like get rid of them at all. Get rid of them all. Get as many draft picks as you can for guys like Minka Fitzpatrick who could play in that defense. Rajul Douglas is a player I highlighted. Like Buffalo, you just had this guy for a couple years who helped your defense. And the way your secondary looks right now, go and get Rajul Douglas back into your room, a guy that knows your system well, because he could still play. I saw him all over the field for Miami in that game on Sunday. And the defense just missed tackles. Effort doesn't look great. Like they were generating pressure in the backfield between, Jalen Phillips looked okay, but they're just not wrapping up. They're not executing as a defense. And then I've touched on the offense enough. It is all scheme based. And that's why I said like McDaniel, he's gonna be fine. He's gonna go somewhere. He's gonna be an offensive coordinator somewhere, and you're going to start to see why this guy, got the praise that he did for such a long time between coordinator and then his first duration of time with Miami. But it's time to tear it down. Chargers side of things, their red zone efficiency was not good. This game should have been an absolute blowout, and it wasn't. Between the red zone efficiency, just having to kick field goal after field goal after field goal, and then I know Gatson fumbled when they were marching in the red zone as well. Like, they were lucky to pull this one out, but the red zone efficiency killed them. Like, they could have blown Miami out of the water in the first half if they wanted to, if they could have just executed. Obviously, Herbert makes a great play late in that game where Miami went down. Tua had a nice drive, finds Waller in the end zone for a touchdown. Chargers get the ball back. Herbert looks like Phillips is going to take him down again, escapes it, dumps it off to Lad McConkey, guy who you've been begging to see more involved. Well, Quentin Johnston's out, and we saw him take the leap. And he played a huge role in this game. And I want to give your boy Hassan Haskins some love because it looks like Vidal is going to be the primary ball carrier just because of how well that he ran the football on Sunday. But Haskins made a huge play in that game on that McConkey grab where he went down the field and you just pure effort, makes a nice screen block to spring McConkey loose. And, I mean, that's just part of the culture. That's part of Jim Harbaugh culture, and the Chargers pull it out. Dicker has a game for the ages again, but I feel like I've touched on Miami enough to this point.
Yeah, no, I think you pretty much covered it all. I mean, that's really all I was going to say is, Chargers really blew this game and then got lucky to pull out the win. I think their defense kind of let them down. Turnovers too, right? But yeah, I mean, they finally got McConkey going. Vidal had the big coming out party. Miami, super slow start and then figured it out towards the end. Just not enough. Now they're sitting at 1-5. So yeah, I mean, just one of those games that you feel, if you're a Chargers fan, you feel really fortunate to come out with the W after almost blowing it.
Let's move on. The new division-leading New England Patriots sing at 4-2. Pull off a game that shouldn't have been as close as it was against the New Orleans Saints. Saints fall to 1-5 on the season. This is another game where the Saints are frisky, man. They were in it until the end. They're doing everything. They don't have the talent that a lot of these other teams do. Rattler looks like he actually has a place to stay in this league if you can somehow find a way to build around him. I've been impressed with him these last few weeks, and I know the bar was set really low for him going into the season, but it's not all on him to this point. Like he's played, I don't want to say he's played above average, but he's come out and he's done a lot better than expected. They don't have the support around him. And then Kamara finished the day with 10 carries for 31 yards. And I thought this was important to note that he came out and he said that he's not interested in being traded. And I thought like the Kansas City Chiefs would be the premier landing spot for Kamara to go among some other teams. But that was interesting to me. I'm just curious, what his commitment to New Orleans is, because this team isn't going anywhere, in the short term future. And he's getting up there in age where how much prime of Alvin Kamara is really left, if any. And, the fact that he doesn't want to go somewhere and compete for a Super Bowl, I mean, I can respect his loyalty to New Orleans, but at the same time, it's like, I mean, you were in it with those years with Drew Brees, where this team was on the doorstep of competing in a Super Bowl for years. And you'd think that he has a little bit of fire in him and he wants to get back to that spot and try to play in a Super Bowl again. But talking about the rest of the game, I already touched on Drake May's brilliance in this one. Could have easily been not even close with some of the plays that they washed out. The one thing I will touch on with New England is Booty's emergence looks great. Pop Douglas is a nice explosive number 3 that they have. And then not to mention Diggs and Hunter Henry. Those are 2 other guys that could beat you at their positions. But New England needs to get the running game going if they really want to compete. It's nice. They're 4-2 right now. And, I've talked about Drake May. He looks great and all these things. But if you really want to compete in the AFC down the wire in this season, like, you need to figure out a way to run the football. Ramondre Stevenson had 13 carries for 18 yards, Tyler. That's averaging 1.4 yards per carry. And he's had his fumbling issues as well. And we've talked about, get Travion Henderson more involved. We'd like to see that. They did. They did get him more involved. He was out there. His snap count was up this game, but still only 9 carries for 27 yards. Drake May was their leading rusher with 28 yards on the ground. So that's the one knock I will say, that New England, if they're going to take that next step and really be a serious contender, they need to figure out a way to run the football between Stevenson and Henderson.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think is interesting when you look at an offensive line with the unit and teams that can pass block well, where their quarterback's not under constant pressure, but then they can't be efficient on the ground. So it just makes you wonder, like, okay, are all of the offensive linemen is their specialty pass blocking and they're not great run blockers? Or is it the scheme? Do we need to change something up? And I don't know too much about running schemes other than zone and whatnot, but I don't know. I don't know what it is, but they got to try something different. I think you've had a large enough sample size at this point to know that you got to try something new there. I think you got the guy like Henderson. I think we all like him coming out. And Stevenson's not a scrub. Yeah, he has his fumbling issues, but he's shown like he can be a good second back, and he's decent out of the backfield on passing downs as well. So I like the the unit, right? I like who they have. They just gotta, like you mentioned, figure it out. For the Saints, all praise to Kellen Moore. He continues to have this very subpar team playing at a average level. Yeah, they're losing games, but they're not getting blown out like we really expected them to be week in and week out. Spencer Rattler is playing at an average to above average level. He's exceeding expectations by a lot. And even though they're 1-5, just goes to show how low the bar was set, right? So, yeah, echoing the intrigue on Kamara wanting to stay put. I respect the loyalty to the city, but at some point, I don't know. I thought maybe he would just get sick of the mediocrity or lack thereof, even, and want to go win somewhere. But I respect it.
Let's move on to the Arizona Cardinals, Indianapolis Colts. This game was wild because, I mean, we found out pretty late that Kyler Murray wasn't going to be playing and Jacoby Brissett got put in, and you were like, all right, is this going to be, what are we going to expect out of this one? Brissett finished the day with 320 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, did have a pick, but I mean, he kept them in this throughout, even without a run game. I mean, they've just been decimated with injuries at the running back position. And now their leading rusher is a guy named Bam Knight, who I knew nothing about going into Sunday. And then Michael Carter matched his yards on the ground. But Arizona hung with them. So credit to them on the road for sticking in this game. Ultimately, the Colts pulled it off in the end, and they're sitting at 5-1. And this game was just carried by Jonathan Taylor, who's right now he's the leading rusher in the NFL. He looks like the top back, and 21 carries for 123 yards, 5.9 average with a touchdown. He's a real weapon. And this offense has got talent. We're seeing Tyler Warren really kick up a gear right now as well. Their rookie tight end. They've got enough receivers. Daniel Jones, he's playing efficient, doing what he has to do on the ground and throwing the ball. He's been a weapon. I want to ask you, this team is sitting at 5-1 right now. Do you expect this team to walk away winning the AFC South right now, based off of what you see so far?
Yes. I think so. I just think that they have a really good thing going right now on the offensive side of the ball, and Jonathan Taylor's someone you can rely on. I mean, the only team I don't expect Houston to make a run.
So the reason I'm going to say this is, looking at their schedule, they're playing at the Chargers this week. And then they got a game at Pittsburgh in a couple weeks. And the schedule really heats up. They haven't had a tough schedule leading up to this point. And they do play the Titans one more time, but they still have to play the Jags twice, and they still have to play the Texans twice. So that's why I'm presenting the question. Do you expect this team to hold up throughout the rest of the season, still having those 4 games against, their top division competitors?
Yeah, I do. I think so. I mean, especially getting off to a 5-1 start. I think that we've seen enough offensively for them to at least be in these games now. Obviously, giving up 320 yards to Jacoby Brissett and a last minute start is not promising, I think. But I don't know. I just feel more confident in them, way more confident in the Colts than I am the Texans. I think for me, the Jags have the best chance to leapfrog them for the division, because I think the Jags offensively are just going to get more consistent as the year goes on. But the defense is just playing at such a high level right now, and they're generating so many turnovers. I don't know if that's going to sustain. So I do think the Colts defense should get better, but we'll see.
Yeah, and that's where we're going to transition right now is to that Jags game. They lose 20-12 at home against Seahawks. Both teams are now sitting at 4-2. And I think that's a good point you made about the defense is they've been a lot better, obviously, than what they've been in the years past. They were just abysmal defensively, especially in the secondary. And they've definitely taken a leap with this new staff. But is it a little fluky, with the amount of turnovers that they had early on in the season? To sustain that is going to be tough. And then my takeaways from this game against Seattle is Seattle's defense, they got absolutely diced up at home last week against Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. But I think that's just a sign. We're seeing this week in, week out for Baker Mayfield and Tampa Bay, and it's like it doesn't matter who's out there for his weapons, and that's why he's got to be the top dog for MVP candidate right now, because he's just been slicing every single defense up, no matter who is out there. Whoever's missing on that offense is more a reflection of the way that he's balling right now than I think Seattle's defense last week. And they really went into Jacksonville and generated pressure and got back to the defense that they have been playing. Here's a stat for you, Tyler. Since Mike McDonald has taken over head coach as the Seattle Seahawks, this team is 10-1 on the road. They've won 9 straight road games. So they're going across the country in a lot of situations and just bringing it to teams. And being, like, there's no layover. There's no, hey, there's got to be a wake up call. First half, you know, it takes us a little time to get going. Like they're coming out ready to play every single week. That defense is, and Sam Darnold. A lot of people were talking about, you know, why are we getting rid of Geno Smith for Sam Darnold? Well, I think we're seeing that now. We're seeing how Geno Smith's playing in this Raiders system, and we're seeing what Darnold's doing. And then there's also those doubters that say, why are we getting rid of DK Metcalf? Well, you got rid of DK Metcalf because Jackson Smith and Jigma is an absolute dog, and he is a certified number one in this league. He finished the day, Tyler, with 8 catches for 162 yards and a touchdown. That's after a week last week against the Bucs where he just went off doing the same thing. So this has just been week in, week out, JSN down defenses' throats. You'd like to see the run game get going better because that's really what that offense is predicated on, and Darnold really thrives in the play action game. So there's still room for improvement if you're the Seahawks, but between what Darnold has been doing in the air and this defense, like they finished the day, they got to Trevor, sacked him 7 times, and that's another situation where it could have easily been 10 sacks. And the Jags offensive line was just getting overpowered by Seattle. And Jacksonville's point of view, I mean, Lawrence dropped back in this game 42 times. That's not who you are. ETN, who's looked great up to this point, ran 12 carries for 27 yards, 2.3 average on the ground. Tootin, 14 yards on the ground. And Brian Thomas, I know there's been a lot of drama surrounding Brian Thomas this year, and what I picked up from in the action that I've seen from the Jags is there's a serious concern right now from me about this dude's will and his want to, because he's running these post routes and these in routes, and it looks like he just has no interest in taking any contact from the defense. Multiple plays this season, I've seen this dude go across the middle, and he's just taking his eyes off the ball and putting him on a defender, and he's like, no, please don't hit me. I'm not going to catch this. And you just cannot have that kind of mentality. We're not living in, the early 2000s or the 1980s anymore, where these safeties can just take your head off and get away with it. We're not in that era of football anymore. Like, it's going to be okay, Brian Thomas, if you make a catch and you get dinged up a little bit going across the middle. And can Trevor Lawrence be better? I've talked about this for years, where he's just constantly throwing up hospital balls to his receiver and hanging him out to dry. Does that kind of add into your psyche as a wide receiver? Sure. But at the end of the day, you're getting paid millions of dollars to catch the ball. And if you have to catch the ball across the middle to get your team a first down, that's what you have to do. So I know he had a costly drop once again in this game. Lawrence, Liam Cohen, he's really turned this team around. He's given them a culture, and this team's competing on a week-in, week-out basis. And he's really elevating Trevor Lawrence to this point, I think. I don't know. I kind of see this Jags team as a 9-win team this year, maybe out in the first round, just because I don't think they have what it takes personnel-wise. But I really like the coach, and I really like where this team is heading. I'm just not sold on the quarterback. And then, like I said, with the Brian Thomas, you just can't have that as a number one receiver.
100%.
Promising game for Seattle.
Yeah, and I was going to say, for Mike McDonald, I'm not surprised. The dude bleeds blue and gold. So for him to just be showing what he can do as a coach, coming from Michigan, not surprised. Guy knows what he's doing. But I will say one thing that I like, it stands out when you look at the box score, is Smith and Jigba had 13 targets. The rest of the receiving group had 11 combined. So he had 2 more targets than the rest of everybody else on the team combined in this game alone. That's what the fuck you do when you have a stud as your number one, and then the rest of everybody else is kind of like, no disrespect to Cooper Kupp or anybody else, but AJ Barner, Elijah Arroyo, Torrey Horton, they're not Smith and Jigba. So that's what you do. My only comment I was going to have on the Arizona game, and again, aside from Marvin Harrison, you have Trey McBride. Those other guys aren't scrubs either, like Michael Wilson, but they only targeted Marvin Harrison twice. I don't know.
He got hurt. He got hurt.
Oh, did he? Okay. I missed that then. I was going to say, like, you can't be doing that. You can't only be giving him 2 targets. All right. That's on me then. I missed that. But, yeah, I mean, from Seattle's side, like, it's a great win. We knew this game. This was probably the toughest game to bet of the week. That was of any interest, I should say, just because of how I think we kind of expected this, like a low-scoring, gritty game. Yeah, and it turned out to be that way. Jags, bread and butter is running the ball. They didn't do that. I mean, Trevor connected with 10 different receivers. I think he would, at some point, like, we got to see more out of Travis Hunter from the offensive side of the ball, right? Like, do something for him. Like, I feel like the Colts, I absolutely love what the Colts do with Tyler Warren. They even bring this dude out of the backfield. They got him on reverses. He's taking snaps. They're scheming up plays drawn up to go to him. I feel like I don't really see that with a lot of these other players that we feel like we should be seeing that from. So, yeah, just something I personally am taking note of. 4 catches on 7 targets for 15 yards. I don't know. I feel like we got to see more. I know he's playing both sides of the ball, so that kind of is a bit of a caveat, but I don't know. I want to see more. Am I being greedy? Is that selfish of me, Pat?
No, I mean, given the fact that you gave up a number 1 next year to move up and take him, I agree with you. I'd like to see more from Travis Hunter. Let's move on to your Dallas Cowboys. As always, I'm going to let you lead and then pick up the pieces. They fall on the road 30-27 to the Carolina Panthers.
It's another week that we sit back and we ask ourselves, what are we doing on the defensive side of the ball? Right? Todd texted us and, he's like, how do we feel? How do we feel about Flus? Right? And I said it, I'm indifferent. I don't know how to feel because it is clearly a scheme. It's clearly a scheme. 2 years ago, when Dan Quinn was there and had them balling as a defense, like, yes, Parsons was there, he's gone. I get it. Marcus Lawrence, he wasn't there last year, but the year before, I get it. But it's mostly the same personnel. There's really not a ton of turnover. Some of those guys who were getting snaps now just aren't getting snaps, like Damone Clark. He barely plays. Still got Diggs, still got Bland, still got Wilson, still got Hooker, still got Odigizua. Like, a lot of these guys were there 2 and 3 years ago when they were balling out, and they're just not now. So it's a mix, right? It's not all on the players, it's not all on the coaching. It's got to be. I mean, when you just watch this and you go back and you look at the plays, not just from the Panthers game, but it's a consistent theme. People are wide the fuck open. There's nobody around them. It's a zone scheme that is flawed, to say the least. The players clearly aren't getting it. They're not buying into it, and they're not performing. So, again, I don't think that, I've said this before, they don't generate pressure with the front four. You're not really bringing the blitz ever. So I just don't, it's not a recipe for success. If you don't generate pressure, what do? With your front four, you blitz, right? You got to mix it up. You got to bring zone blitzes, man blitz, whatever you got to do. And if you can sit back and you can cover and you're locking guys down, then that gives your front four more time to generate pressure. Well, you're not doing that either because guys are getting wide open. So they got a lot. Thanks, Pat. Thanks. They got a lot that they got to figure out. You know what I mean? So offensively, though, like
Dak looks great. Dak's
yeah,
playing like MVP.
offensively they look great, right? George Pickens is all of what they gave up for him and more. I think when CD comes back, it's going to be interesting to see the duo fit in because of what you've seen Pickens do over the last few weeks. So offensively, we're not worried about a damn thing. Defensively, that's what keeps us up at night. Just it's hard to pinpoint what it is, but they're awful on defense. And Flus has got to figure it out. I think there's only so many more weeks that they can do this before they make the change. I mean, last year it was very similar with Zimmer and how bad they were, and then eventually they kind of figured it out a little bit. And it's the same fucking conversation we're having this year. But it might be, Dak got hurt last year, and then it was too little, too late. He's having one of his better seasons, and I don't know if they can continue to waste it. It's really where I'm at.
Rico Dowdle, revenge game.
Fucking A.
Back-to-back weeks, this dude has over 200 yards from scrimmage. He was their leading receiver with 56 yards, and then also 183 on the ground, averaging 6.1 yards a carry. So yeah, you're just not going to win when you're giving up those kind of numbers to running backs. And then, I talked to a Panthers fan over the weekend, and I was just talking about Bryce Young. He's like, this basically just sums it up, and I understand like where they're coming from. Is like, you know what? I wish he would just figure it out, and it's like, what's killing me is the inconsistency. It's like, show us you're the real deal, and you could be the QB1 of this team going in the future, or just flatten out, and play like you did when you first came in the league. But like, he's just been so inconsistent with the ups and the downs, and you see some of the greatness from him, and then you see some of the bad decision makings that he has on a week in, week out basis. He's just like, he's got a little Kyler Murray in him when it comes to that. And he finished the day 17 to 25 for $199, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. QBR was 52.9, but that's kind of, that's basically just sums up like Bryce Young. And this is against a defense that has been getting torn up by everybody that they played. So you kind of expected his numbers to even be better than what they are. Like, I know he had 3 touchdowns, but I don't know. I like Dave Canales in Carolina. I'm not sold on what this team is going to be going forward. And they've shown that they're a good home team. It's when this team goes on the road, that's when it's like they miss the bus. It's just like a completely different team when they go on the road. So still need to get a better feel for what the Carolina Panthers are. It was nice to see McMillan finally get in the end zone. He had 3 catches and 2 of them were touchdowns. So
wide open on 2 of them, by the way.
Yeah. Xavier Leggett sadly looks like that was a bust from a season ago. That's just a guy that's kind of disappeared here. They got Jimmy Horn that's getting more looks than him at this point. So yeah, and then Hunter Renfrow, who was cut not too long ago by a team. So let's move on.
Oh wait, sorry. One other thing I wanted to point out with Dallas's defense, unfortunately, is that they have only looked okay at best one time this year. Well, besides week 1 against Philly, I thought they looked decent in week 1, besides letting Hurts scramble around and get yards on every critical third down. But it was against the Jets, who we talked about earlier, and their offense is abysmal. So it's really nothing that, like, they've just been bad every fucking week. Yeah. Every fucking week.
That man, the Bills. The only game where the Bills defense showed up was against the Jets, conveniently too. So not just the Cowboys.
True. Oh, and I forgot to touch on this. Sorry. Offense did look great all day until their final drive, which they probably didn't think was going to be the final drive, but ended up being the final drive because what did the Panthers do? They milked 6 minutes off the clock to kick a field goal because all they had to do was run the ball. they did have that fourth down conversion, by the way. That was a big time throw by Bryce Young, sneaking that slant in there. I don't know how Murray didn't get his hand on it, but that
Yes,
was a huge
I'm
play.
glad you mentioned that. That was a great throw.
That was a play of the
Ballsy
game.
decision too.
Very
Ballsy.
ballsy. Very ballsy. I think if they don't get that, they lose. But they got it, and I think they knew if we get this first down, we're going to run the ball, and they're not going to stop us, and we're going to kick a field goal to win the game. So ballsy, and it paid off. But that possession from Dallas, first down, check down to the running back, quick check down, loss of 4. You throw a screen pass, another loss of 6. Now you got 3rd and 20. The fuck are we doing? All day it's been working going to George Pickens, and on the biggest drive of the game, you're going to check down and then throw a screen to the running back that hasn't been doing shit all day. Just not the best. And I don't want to criticize, the play calling, because I think generally they did a great job and they have been all year. But that was just one of those drives where it just didn't make a ton of sense what the intent was going in. But congrats to the Panthers. That was actually a big win for them to get to 500, and the Cowboys still stink.
Yeah. Moving on to a game that I just really don't want to spend much time at all on, and that's the Titans Raiders. This was awful, and it's just it's consistent with both these teams on a week in week out basis where their game just kind of slips under the radar, and it's like, yeah, there's not really much I want to discuss when it comes to these two teams. Obviously, we mentioned Callahan got fired, so we'll see what kind of impact that has on this Titans team moving forward. But I mean, Geno still doesn't look great. The Raiders just look like, I mean, they're sitting at 2-4 right now. I'm not optimistic about this team at all moving forward. I just don't have much at all. Free Tony Pollard. I'll keep saying it week in, week out.
Yeah. I was going to say, when I talked earlier about the Seahawks Jags game being the hardest game to bet on, I said of interest or of relevance. That's the reason I mentioned that, was because of this game. This game was also one of the harder games to bet on, but no one wanted it. No one wanted to bet on this game, just how bad these two teams have looked. And even this game was terrible to watch. Very similar almost to that or the Sunday morning game, excuse me. So, and I also figured that stat out. Gabriel, he didn't get pressured 38 times. He just took 38 yards in sack yardage. But I bet you he was pressured on at least half those dropbacks. Cam Ward had 60, got sacked 6 times for 62 yards. Can't have it. Cannot have it. It was just, it was tough to watch. Yeah, I'm not going to spend any more time other than I wish they would get more Jacoby Myers targets and less Trey Tucker, but Trey Tucker's been doing pretty well, so I don't want to hate. I'm saying that selfishly for fantasy purposes, but yeah, go Raiders.
Moving on to what was the primetime afternoon game in that window, and that was the San Francisco 49ers at the Tampa Bay Bucks. Bucks went into this game with no Bucky Irving and still had the receivers that have been down. Ibuka went in as the number one. You expected him to have a big game, and then Ibuka gets hurt early in that game as well. He only finished with 2 catches on the day. So I'm piggybacking off of what I said earlier about Baker Mayfield being the MVP front runner right now, and he just does it again. Like, he had some highlight reel plays once again where he was escaping pressure, evading tackles, and just having the will, finding a way to reach the first down. And I've talked about this from him and just his mentality and how much I love just the dog in Baker Mayfield and how he has elevated that locker room in Tampa these last few years. I mean, they're sitting at 5-1 right now, and they don't have their starting running back. They don't have their top. Well, I guess Ibuka is up there now, but going into the year, Mike Evans, McMillan, and Godwin, like, those were your 3 receivers from last season. All those guys have been out, and you're sitting at 5-1 right now. You just beat the 49ers in a game where Cameron Johnson was your leading receiver, and then Sterling Shepard and Tez Johnson were next in line in receptions, and then Rashad White had to do the work on the ground. And I mean, Baker finished the day with a passer rating of 139, 17 of 23, a couple touchdowns and 256, and then just that one scramble where he found a way to get a first down. I mean, that is just the epitome of Baker Mayfield football right there. So exciting to watch. Defense continues to play up to their standard under that Todd Bowles system, even dealing with some of the injuries that they've dealt with on that side of the ball. I will say on the 49ers side of things, like, Mac Jones has not been a slouch since filling in for Brock Purdy. Like, he had some bad turnovers in this game. He threw the ball 39 times for 347, but he's really developed like a chemistry with Kendrick Bourne, a guy that was thrown away by New England, and he gets reunited in San Francisco. And it's like the couple weeks that he's been in San Francisco, this dude's just been balling. He finished the day with 5 catches for $142. And then, I mean, Tonjes, the fill-in for Kittle at tight end, he's really played well in Kittle's absence. Obviously, one of the strengths of Tampa that makes this team, so you have to feel so optimistic going forward is that run defense. They continue to shut teams down on the ground, and they did that with McCaffrey on this day. They only held him to 54 yards on the ground. And if you can do that and force Mac Jones or even Brock Purdy to throw the ball 39 times, like, you're setting yourself up to succeed. And when you combine that with just the brilliance that Baker Mayfield is showing right now on the offensive side of the ball, like, this team, I mean, when looking on paper at the rest of the NFC right now, I mean, the Eagles are down. The Lions don't seem to be what they were last year. Green Bay, they've had their ups and downs. I mean, they lost at Cleveland. We can't forget that. And then in the West, like Seattle, we like Seattle. We like the Rams and the Niners as well. But I mean, why not the Bucs? Why can't the Bucs be the team from the NFC to make a run of the Super Bowl right now with what they're doing in the absence of all of these skill players that aren't even playing right now? Like, this is just insane. This run from Baker Mayfield right now.
Yeah, I don't think that you can really hate on the take that the Bucs might be the favorite out of the NFC at the moment. Maybe they make a move to add to that defense at the deadline. I think that'd be good for them. I don't know exactly where they need the help. I do know that Levante David has not been the same Levante David that we're used to, and maybe that changes, and then that's another upgrade, right, on their defense. But I think that's what they should do, is go get something to help out that unit at the deadline, because their offense is fucking clicking. And one thing, I can't remember if I mentioned this to you or if I talked about this before, but I'll say it again. A couple years ago, Baker, I think it was his first year in Tampa. Is this year 3 or 4 for him in Tampa? I think it's year 3, right?
Yeah, I think it is 3.
Because I want to say
1 year of Canales, 1 year of Cohen,
and now
yeah,
whoever's here, right? So that was the thing, right? First year in Tampa, coming out party, holy shit, Baker is actually good. And then Canales, got the offseason praise, got a head coaching gig in Carolina. Last year, Cohen steps in as OC, another new offense for Baker, and he balls out again, even better. Cohen gets the praise, head coaching job in Jacksonville. And now we're like, okay, can he do it for a third year in a row with a third different offensive coordinator? And he's playing even fucking better. So it's like, who do you give the praise to? All to Baker. I don't even know who their offensive coordinator is right now. But Baker's just making it happen. He's doing it year after year with a different OC. He deserves all the praise. And I'll say it again, like, I was out on Baker 3 years ago before his first year in Tampa. I was like, he's done. this guy's probably just going to be a backup for the rest of his career. And then he's doing what he's doing now. So this is why I don't think him and even Geno, to a lesser extent, are like why you can't really truly give up on guys, on quarterbacks, even after 4 or 5 years in the league. Daniel Jones, another one, right? Like sometimes they just figure it out, and it takes more time than it should. It takes longer than others, but yeah, no, I'm super happy for Baker. Dude's a dog, and he's balling out, and he deserves all the credit. I hope they keep this up and improve on defense, and he's going to get his reinforcements here soon on the offensive side of the ball, and I'm excited to see what they can do.
Just a great dude too. Great family guy. Very easy to root for. Baker Mayfield. Love it. Love the success that he's having. Cincinnati Bengals, team that started off 2-0, has now lost 4 in a row. They lose at Lambeau 27-18. The Packers move on to 3-1-1. I mean, I going into this game, I expected Green Bay to just blow them out. I expected the defense to completely overpower them, and then Green Bay get whatever they wanted offensively. And early on in the game, it looked like, that could have happened, and then it just kind of stalled out, like offensively. I think that there's still some inconsistencies with Jordan Love in this offense, and part of the reason I was just saying like the Bucs have to be the favorite is like because it just has to do with the inconsistencies that we're seeing from Green Bay, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. It's like Cincinnati made a decent run later in this game to come within closing distance of Green Bay, and there's just no reason with Joe Flacco in his first week after getting shipped from Cleveland to Cincinnati, barely knowing barely knowing the system or let alone the players, the personnel, all of these things. Like I did not expect this game to even be close. Yet you only you won by 9 points, and like I said, I expected them to put their foot down and really show who they were as a football team and kind of see what we saw those first couple of weeks of the season. But I'm still waiting to see. I'm excited for this Sunday night game, not this week but next week between Green Bay and Pittsburgh. That's going to be a game that's definitely circle that on your calendars. But as far as Cincinnati goes, it's just a season from hell right now. As soon as Burrow went down, that's your guy. And we talked about that going into week 1, how important it was to keep him upright if you want to be a team that's going to compete for a Super Bowl. And they've just fallen flat on their faces these last 4 weeks. Sad to see, but from Green Bay's point of things, like I said, I got to see more before I'm sold on them.
One thing I did like was what they were doing with Golden, which I think we've been waiting for all year, was to see what they were doing with him. So I love to see that. And then they got Jacobs really going. I think this was his first real like good, consistent, really just game of the year where he was just getting chunk. Albeit against a Cincinnati defense that's not stellar. But one take that I do have for Cincinnati, and maybe this is a bit of a hot take, but shade on the Green Bay defense for allowing Flacco to do what he did, coming in, learning the playbook for 2 days, deservingly so. But how about flipping that and giving Flacco some credit against a what should be a solid defense in Green Bay? He comes in, doesn't know a damn thing, probably doesn't even know what the hot routes are. He doesn't even know what the audible to. He's probably just saying, all right, I know this guy does that, and this guy might be doing that. We'll just fucking see how it goes. Only 1 sack. Only got sacked 1 time. But like, I don't know. For some reason, I expect this Cincinnati team, once Joe Flacco learns the playbook, I don't know. I expect them to get, I don't know. I want like just a tough out, scrappy. You give them T. Higgins and Jamar Chase Brown. Hopefully, finally get him going. He actually had decent as far as yards per carry. I don't know. I feel like they can just be a scrappy offense that is tough to put away. and they can give some teams a run for their money. I don't think they're going to be like a Tennessee or a Vegas, teams like that, or like the Saints where, you just expect them to lose by 2 possessions every game. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not as, I guess I came away with this being a little more optimistic for Cincinnati's offense than I guess I had been since Burrow went out.
That's interesting. Yeah, and I didn't like the fit. I'm getting Flacco, and I mentioned this on Sunday to you and Todd just because of how horrible their offensive line has been, and now you're going to bring in a guy who's, he's probably the most immobile quarterback in the league. Can't move around and evade pressure, and you're throwing him back there, but behind an offensive line that continuously gets Burrow and Browning banged up. So, to your point, if it's going to happen, it's gonna have to start, right here in a couple of days. They're playing Thursday night football at home against the Steelers. So if you want to make a statement, and prove Tyler right, beat the Steelers at home on Thursday night, and then hey, you got a long week, and then you play the Jets at home.
That's the one.
That's
the
2
one.
wins. But it's got to be 2. And then the week after that, you're playing at home against the Bears. So if it's going to be, at any point in time, you got to do it now. We got to see it now because their schedule is going to ramp up later in the season. And that's going to really determine if it's even worth Burrow even trying to come back. But we'll see what happens with Cincinnati. Let's move on. Sunday night football. We're in the prime time window now. Detroit Lions go on the road to Kansas City. I expected this to be a lot more competitive game. I mean, it still ended up being a pretty decent game to watch, but I just expected more. But then again, Detroit's defense is just completely depleted. I mean, I guess I was just kind of being greedy and expecting them to play out of their minds, a bunch of backups at Arrowhead and against Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, but you could tell they're really lacking on the defensive side of the ball with all the injuries that have added up for them. I thought there were a couple sketchy plays in this game. The Kelsey catch that they ruled the catch right away. I thought that one hit the ground, and then the Jared Goff touchdown catch that they called back, I thought was a little curious as well. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs deserved to win, and they won the game. And Mahomes just looks like a man possessed right now because we've seen this offense. Xavier Worthy's been in and out of the lineup. This is really the first game that he's been consistently out there. And then they've been missing Rice, obviously, and the run game hasn't been great. So Mahomes has really put it on his shoulders. If he's scrambling around and he doesn't see something, he's immediately taking off upfield, and he's not fearing contact at all whatsoever. So there's another game where he had 32 yards on the ground, 10 carries. So I'd like to see them get a little more structure in the offense, but I think that's going to come with Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice is really going to calm this offense down, settle it down. Like the fact that they're sitting at 3-3 right now after the start that they had and how things were looking, and you're getting Rice back, and Worthy's only going to get better as the year goes on. Fingers crossed that he stays healthy. The defense is still top tier defense with Spags calling it. Like we still see it. Even when Chris Jones doesn't look like he's still the same Chris Jones, they got enough guys around him where the Chiefs are going to be okay. The Chiefs are going to be in it until the end. They're going to be competing for this division down the stretch. They're not going anywhere, even after that 1-2 start to start the year. But yeah, I mean, the takeaways from this is you'd like to see their run game improve. I mean, we're going to keep touching on that. So it takes a lot of the pressure off of Mahomes. Like, yes, Mahomes can get it done. He's proven that. He's an incredible quarterback, and that's the reason why he has the hardware that he does. But I think it's only going to get easier as time goes on, and they got to be just ecstatic about getting Rashee Rice back. Detroit side of things, I'm not overreacting to this. They're sitting at 4-2. They're missing 5 of their 6 top corners going into that game. We're out. So like this defense is only going to get better as the season goes on. And this is a team that doesn't thrive on. I mean, I thought Collinsworth really touched on this well. Is they're not a team that thrives on playing from behind. They're not built that way. Jared Goff's not that type of quarterback. You really need to get the run game going, and then he thrives off that play action a lot, like Sam Darnold when I was referring to earlier in the episode. Like that's their identity as a team is just power football, and then eating you up in the play action game. So this kind of game just didn't gel. This didn't fit their mojo when they had to play behind. But when their defense is missing who they were missing, they were kind of set up to fail in that retrospect.
Yeah, it was one of the fishy lines of the week, and I think it was Detroit. You look at them coming in at 4-1, 4 straight wins. Kansas City was sitting there at 2-3, but they were the favorites, 2.5-point favorites. So a fishy line kind of going in, but with the injuries and Detroit not really playing, I guess I don't want to say valid, but a good team. Like Detroit's wins weren't, I don't want to say legit teams, but against some lesser teams, we'll put it that way. So it was a good test for them. I thought they played okay. It didn't help that Kansas City played a clean game. They had 0 penalties. So they had that going for them. But yeah, I thought that. Right. So there's that. And, the Goff one really got me. I didn't understand that whole call. But I'm sure we'll either have to A, do our research, or B, someone will do it for us and let us know if the refs fucked them or if it truly was a penalty. But yeah, I think Kansas City is going to be what they have been. I think they're back to 500, and it was almost like that bad start never happened. And they're what? A game out of first in their division?
Yeah.
So, here we go again. Kansas City's right back in it. And as you said, when Mahomes is playing like the way he's playing, that's when it's really tough because he can just make it happen. So, yeah, that's really all I got.
Let's cap this off. Let's get into the Monday night slate. There are 2 games Monday night, which I just want to touch on. I can't stand. I cannot stand the Monday night game. I'd rather have a Friday night game and then 2 Monday night games or a Saturday night game. But I just can't. I'm not a fan of the 2 Monday night games because it's like I'm trying to lock in on Bills and Falcons, and then in my smaller screen, the Bears Commanders is kicking off. So I'm trying to go back and forth. There was a little bit of a window when Bills Falcons was at halftime, and I could really lock in on the Bears Commanders, but I just felt like I missed so much of that first quarter in that Washington game. So just a little bit of a pet peeve, I guess. First world problems situation where I'm just not a big fan of the 2 Monday night game structure. But anyways, Atlanta pulls it off 24-14 against Buffalo. They move on to 3-2. Buffalo falls to 4-2. Atlanta started off hot, went right down the field, scored a touchdown. Buffalo got the ball back. Throw a deep ball to Josh Palmer, set them up. They go right down the field, score a touchdown. I'm thinking this thing is about to get crazy in Atlanta, and it's about to be a shootout. Well, from that point forward, that Atlanta defense held Josh Allen and that Buffalo offense to 7 points for the remainder of the game. They only finished with 14. And then Atlanta, they were just getting whatever they wanted, and it shouldn't have. Bad clock management going into the end of half on that play too. Like they could have set themselves up much better in that situation to where it shouldn't have come down to London having to get into the end zone. And, he gets taken out at the 1 as time expired. That could have very easily been another touchdown to put Atlanta up 2 possessions going into the half. So Buffalo was very fortunate for that. I can't believe the fact that the Bills were somehow Super Bowl favorites in the books leading up to this game when their defense has just been horrible. And The combined record of the teams that they beat to this point was 3 and something. Like, it was not good at all. And their defense does not look good besides the one game they played Jets. And we've talked enough about how awful the Jets look. Yeah, they're missing Matt Milano, but man, it just looks horrible. Like, you're relying heavily on Tre'Davious White at this point, and then at safety, like Rapp and Bishop do not look good at all, to the point where you have to sign Jordan Poyer off the streets. It's really ugly on the defensive side of the ball. And as a head coach, me and Sean McDermott, like, that's your area. That's your expertise. It's on you to figure that shit out, because, I mean, Atlanta's defense, I want to give them credit. They did a good job of cracking the code, Josh Allen, in this offense for the majority of this game. They deserve a ton of credit. But big picture, week in, week out, year after year after year, like, McDermott, you have to get your side of things straight. And I know it's unfortunate that you got to pay your MVP quarterback all this money, and Bean has to fill the roster, and he can't fill it, with the strengths in certain positions that he wants to do. But I mean, other teams with high-paid quarterbacks are finding a way to do it, and you guys can't. And you're just completely outmatched on the defensive side of the ball, to the point where Matt Milano is missing, and you guys are just getting ran over. Like, it's week after week where you just see running backs and receivers breaking tackles and running through dudes. They're just not wrapping up. Drake London had an absolute field day in this one. Bijan Robinson had an absolute field day in this one. I mean, Bijan finished with 170 yards rushing with 8 on the ground and throwing 68 yards receiving. And they're setting these plays up for him, and he's just absolutely wide open. He's wide open in the flat, or they're dumping it off to him, and there's no one to be found on Buffalo's defense. And he's getting 10 yards without anybody touching him. So, and then Algier comes in the game, and he's pounding the rock down Buffalo's throats as well. So, my takeaway from this is the Bills' defense, they have a lot of work to do, and I don't think they're 1 or 2 trades away. Like, this thing is, it's looking really rough. And, Josh Allen can't put the cape on every single week. You can't see an MVP version of a player every single week to carry your team to a win. And Atlanta's defense has gotten better and better under Raheem Morris. So, like I said, credit to them. But I just don't think, I mean, if Josh Allen, fingers crossed, knock on wood, if he was to go down for this team, does this team have a shot to remain in a game for a half with what their personnel is on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball? And their leading receiver on the day was Josh Palmer with 2 catches for 60 yards. And the majority of it, 45 yards of it, was on that first drive of the game, on that play that I mentioned that set up the chunk play for the first touchdown. Besides that, it's like Shakir, 33 yards on 3 catches. Tyrell Shavers, 3 catches for 27 yards. I know they were missing Kincaid, but all Knox had was that 1 touchdown grab. And it's like, Keon Coleman, man, I'm sorry, but I'm never going to forget the fact that you traded your pick to Kansas City for them to get Xavier Worthy, and you moved back thinking it was a good idea that you could do that, and got Keon Coleman, who he has 1 route in his route tree, and that's Josh throwing the ball to him on the sideline on a back shoulder fade, and him just turning around and catching it. He's literally a basketball player playing the receiver position that has 1 route tree. You have that, or you have him in the red zone where you could throw him a jump ball. Besides that, you don't see him working inside the numbers, in the seams, any of that. And the fact that you moved back in the draft and spent that pick on him is just absolutely mind-boggling to me. And the fact that Brandon Beane doesn't get crushed on it, like, I'm going to kill him on that move for years to come. It's like, you did that, and you gave the Chiefs Mahomes years ago as well. So I feel like I might be rambling a little bit, but Atlanta's offense, it's promising. And then their defense obviously held up a lot in this game too. But my takeaway is, man, there's some serious issues in Buffalo right now.
Agreed. And, not much to say on the Atlanta side of things. They balled out. They had a great game. Could have put up more. I thought the over in this game was a lock, right? When it was touchdown, and then even at half, it was what, 21-7 at half, almost 28-7. And the over was like the total sitting at 49.5. So just 50 points. I'm like, oh, lock. And then the whole second half, we get what? 2 touchdowns. Even the Bills came out right away, scored a touchdown, first possession again, and then shut out the rest of the second half. So yeah, it's just like the one question I have for the Bills offense is if you can't get the run game going because you're behind like this and you can't stick to the run and you need to throw the ball, is this what we're going to get? Like, is Josh Allen going to finally look human and throw interceptions because he's trying to force throws and he's actually getting pressure because the defense is expecting the pass and they can just, the D lineman can just get up the field? Yeah, and the Bills' offensive line is normally very good. They kind of felt like overmatched. A couple nights, was it last night? Yeah, it was last night. So yeah, I mean, the Bills are kind of who we thought they were, at least to this point in the season, and I think the public thinks they're a lot better than what they really are. But to your point, they have a lot that they need to do on the defensive side of the ball, and Matt Milano's not your answer. When I was talking to Matt a couple weeks ago, and I was like, when they played the Saints, and I was like, damn, the Saints looked way better than I thought they were going to look. And he was like, yeah, well, they were missing Milano and Ed Oliver. And I was like, who gives a fuck? You're missing those two guys, and that's your excuse to let a poor team look good? No. So, I'm not discrediting injuries. Obviously, when you have all pro caliber players who are out and their replacements are not great, yes, there is a noticeable difference, but that is not the fix all, right? It's not one guy, it's not two guys, it's a lot. So, yeah, just to kind of echo what you said, they got some things they need to figure out. Atlanta, I want to keep seeing it from Penix. I think he's still got to gradually get better, but it was a good game from him. And him and London were cooking. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, certainly. All right, let's finish this thing off with the other Monday night game. Chicago Bears go into Washington,
The Bears.
pull off the win, 25-24. Jake Moody, I felt great for him. A guy who came in, got thrown away by San Francisco, deservingly so for how bad that he struggled.
When did they sign him?
They signed him to his practice squad. I believe they said it was like September 12th where they brought him on the practice squad. And then Cairo Santos was banged up, so they had to elevate him for this game, and they needed him big time. He came through.
Wow.
Obviously ends up getting the game-winning kick in the end, which was great. Two things that really stick out to me from this game is the conditions were sloppy. We knew that going in. One team was able to get the run game going, and the other wasn't. And, if you would have asked us before the game if that would have happened, we probably would have said it was Washington that got their run game going between Krosky Merritt and McNichols, and how those guys have looked, recently. Chicago's been struggling on the ground. It was the complete opposite. This was a absolute masterclass game by DeAndre Swift in this run game. And, we've been talking about it week in, week out, where this is the one thing that's missing in the offense that's really going to get Ben Johnson's system humming. And he finished the day with 14 carries. I mean, the way he was running, you'd like to see even more than that. But he finished the day with 14 carries for 108 yards, 7.7 on the ground. They gave 5 carries to Menage as well. But, I mean, from Washington's side of things, Krosky Merritt, he only finished with 61 yards on the ground. Their next rusher was Jaden Daniels for 52 yards. And I don't think Daniels played his best game. And I know he was just coming back from injury, so deservingly so. It's probably going to take him some time to really get back into the flow of things. And then, like I said, the conditions were what they were. But I thought he got outplayed by Caleb in this one. And I think this was a statement win for Ben Johnson, for Caleb Williams, and this team. I know that Washington it looked like they were going to pull away in the end. And then you have that miscue on the handoff where Jaden just kind of, I don't know what he was doing with the handoff to Krusky Merritt, but they fumble it late in the game, and Chicago gets the fortunate recovery, which allowed them to go down the field and set up for the game-winning kick. Obviously, you can't talk about this game without mentioning that play. But I just thought from, big picture side of things, I thought Caleb looked much better, looked much smoother, much more efficient than Jaden did in this game. And like I said, I know Jaden was coming back from injury, but promising game for the Bears, and it's exciting to see them get that run game going because we know it can make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, we also saw a lot more of DJ Moore for the first time this year, and a lot less of Dunze. They finally got a good mix with the tight ends. Loveland had a few grabs, Kmet had a few nice plays as well. It was just kind of really spread out, right? They didn't really favor any one guy over the next. Swift obviously got some receptions out of the backfield as well, though you normally see him get that, but obviously the 155-yard play really sparked things and got them back into it. The miscues are obviously unfortunate, but I think this was a huge game for Caleb to win for his own confidence, because whether he, says it or not, I think one thing that's always in the back of your mind when you're playing the guy who was the pick right behind you, right? You're the number one pick. This guy went number 2. He had a great year, went to the playoffs. I'm sure that's all Caleb heard all offseason, and even probably during the season, was how, Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the draft. He should have been taken number 1 overall. Like, that makes its way to Caleb. It has to. And then to lose that game to them last year on the Hail Mary, and then to be playing them again this year, and if you're going to face them again and go 0-2, those voices only, grow. So I think it was just really good for his confidence to get this win, especially against Jaden Daniels. So good stuff, though. It's improvement, right? We want to see more consistency. We want to see Caleb and that offense just improve. This was their best game offensively by far. I think it's a complete unit. And one thing that Caleb just has to continue to do better is, like, put the ball on your receivers. Like, you gotta hit him. I think he has the highest, like, missed target rate in the NFL. It's like, or the ball is just off target. So he just has to be more accurate. But it was a huge win for Chicago. Shout out to Todd. I know he was there. The weather was not great, so he was toughing that out. So shout out to them.
Yeah, and they coming off of that, they're playing the Saints at home. So I mean, that's a golden opportunity for them to get to 4-2. And then I know the Packers' schedule ramps up a little bit as well. So I mean, this NFC North fight is going to be interesting. Just want to look at the Commanders. The Commanders are coming up. They're playing at your Cowboys. They're sitting at 3-3 right now. They're playing at Dallas, which isn't going to be an easy game. And then they're playing at Kansas City. And then they're playing Seattle and Detroit. So these next 4 games for Washington are going to be pivotal.
It's a tough stretch.
What this team's going to do down the stretch. They do get a break against Miami the week after that, but then they play Denver and they play Minnesota right after that, and then they have 2 more games. They still have to play the Eagles twice. So it's going to be interesting to see what this Washington Commanders team ends up being this season. But this was great. I feel like we really got into it. All these games. I want to thank y'all for listening. Do us a favor if you're on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Get at us on Instagram and Facebook. We will see you next time. Goodbye.
Peace.
your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll tour. When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock.